The gospel is a parable of the bridesmaids, 5 of whom were prepared and 5 were not, from the 25th chapter of Matthew. Then the kingdom of heaven will be like this. 10 bridesmaids took their lamps and went to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish, and 5 were wise. When the foolish ones took their lamps, they took no oil with them, but the wise took flasks of oil with their lamps. As the bridegroom was delayed, all of them became drowsy and slept. But at midnight there was a shout, "Look, here is the bridegroom. Come out to meet him." Then all those bridesmaids got up and trimmed their lamps. The foolish said to the wise, "Give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out." But the wise replied, "No, there will not be enough for you and for us. You had better go to the dealers and buy some for yourselves." And while they went to buy it, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went in with him into the wedding banquet, and the door was shut. Later the other bridesmaids came also, saying, "Lord, Lord, open to us." But he replied, "Truly I tell you, I do not know you." And Jesus said, "Keep awake, therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour." The gospel of the Lord. Thanks be to God. The music had wound down from the prelude. You could tell that the organist was anticipating that soon the procession had to be ready to go. The parents were lined up, ready for their cue to go in. All the attendants were in place. Everybody dressed, ready for the occasion, and one bridesmaid was missing. One bridesmaid was missing. The guys stood there in their tuxes ready. The gals in their long, sleek, kind of satiny sheath things, big fancy bows on the back with long tails that went almost to the floor. Everybody was ready. The guests were in place. Everybody was expecting the wedding to start right on time. And one bridesmaid was missing. There we stood, knowing we couldn't go in until we had that last bridesmaid. Somebody quickly ran to the room where they had dressed. She wasn't there. Somebody checked the kitchen. She wasn't there. Somebody looked down the hall. She wasn't there. And then we heard down the hall a toilet flush, and the bathroom door came open. Down the hall she came, ready to go in, and as she stepped into place, there was this audible gasp among all the attendants. The bottom 10 inches of her bow, her ribbon, was soaking wet. Somebody said, "What happened?" And all we heard was the voice of the mother of the bride, very calmly and very soothingly say, "Well, we all know what happened, and there's nothing we can do about it, so let's start." And down the aisle they went. The groom that day realized that he was getting this totally unflappable, smooth, calm mother-in-law, and that is exactly who she was. She wasn't at all perturbed. She just said, "There's nothing we can do about it, so let's start." And down the aisle they went, all the bridesmaids matching, almost. The story that Jesus tells today is of bridesmaids waiting for the arrival of the groom. It wasn't a bridesmaid that was missing, it was the groom. They knew he was coming, they just didn't know when. They were ready, expecting him to come during the night. They had their lamps. 5 of them had anticipated, okay, we might need some extra oil, so they brought some. And 5 of them just thought, well, we're ready. My lamp is full. Surely he'll be here before I run out of oil. Or else they just didn't think about it at all. But they did run out of oil. And then they asked, when they heard that the bridegroom was coming, "Give us some of yours so that we too can light the way and celebrate for the coming of the bridegroom." And the 5 who had plenty of oil said, No, he is coming, but if we give to you, we won't have enough. Why don't you kind of head down the road and find a dealer and buy some for yourselves? And while they were gone, the bridegroom arrived. They all went into the wedding banquet. The doors were shut, and after they were shut, the 5 lacking the oil, arrived, knocked and said, let us in, let us in. And the answer was no. The answer was no. There's the text that Jesus gives us today. There's the text, and there's tension in that text. There's tension between those who are ready and those who aren't. Those who have plenty of oil but won't share it, well, maybe they don't have plenty of oil. There was a fear that they too would run out, and then they would all be unprepared for the bridegroom. Now that would set up even more tension. And then there's a tension at the end of the text when the knock comes on the door saying, let us in, and the answer is no. As I told the kids, Jesus is always doing things in our present lives. Do we always recognize it? Do we always see it? God is always doing things in your life and in mine. Jesus in his ministry raised Lazarus from the dead. I wonder how many people missed it, heard about it, but didn't quite believe it. Jesus forgave the sins of the Syrophoenician woman. I wonder how many people said, yeah, but it didn't make a difference in her life. And yet it did. Jesus fed 5,000 people. I wonder if some of them went home and said, did that really happen? With just a few loaves and a few fish? Jesus was always doing things in the present moment in people's lives. But he was also pointing further down the road for them as well. At one point, Jesus said, pointing to the walls of the temple, go ahead, tear down these walls, and in 3 days, I'll build it up. He wasn't talking about the walls of the temple. He was talking about his body. Go ahead, kill me, betray me, crucify me, but you will not kill me because my body, I will rise. God will raise me up. Jesus was doing things in the present moment in people's lives, but he was also pointing down the future, down the road to the future that is ahead. Every one of us has things happen in our daily lives that make us wait, as if we're waiting for that bridegroom, which indeed we are, Jesus being the bridegroom. If we're driving a car at all, we are going to hit a stoplight somewhere along the line, and we are going to stop and wait for that thing to turn green. If we need groceries, we are going to go to a grocery store, and we're going to fill our cart, and we're going to go to the checkout, and chances are that we're going to be standing there waiting for someone else to check out first, or at least waiting for the clerk to run all of our groceries through the scanner and tell us how much we owe. Every one of us, if we own a vehicle, is going to have to stand in line in one county or the other to pay for the vehicle license. By the way, if your licenses expire in April or May, you can still get the old price. Been there, done that. Ours expire in May. And yes, I waited, but I was the first one in line and I waited for them to open. Every one of us at some point goes through medical tests. And we know that once the tests are made, we have to wait for the results. All of those kinds of things that we wait for are acts of faith. We stop at a red light, believing and trusting that the light will go green. We go to the grocery store and we wait in line knowing that it will be our turn to pay for our groceries, take them home, put them in the cupboard, prepare a meal. We know that when we stand in line for those vehicle license tabs, that there will come a moment when we have to be standing or kneeling by our cars and putting them on the license plates. But we live in the faith that it's not going to be forever that we stand in line, though it may seem like it. We will eventually have them in our hands to put on. And we know very well that when we go through medical tests, at some point we will hear the results and a medical staff will put together the form of treatment. all of those things are acts of faith, because we do things in these present moments of our lives knowing that something is yet to come. We are waiting. We are waiting for the completion of the kingdom of heaven. And that's what that parable is all about. The bridegroom is coming. The kingdom of heaven is like the bridegroom coming, and everyone is waiting. Ready or not, that bridegroom comes. And waiting for the kingdom of heaven is indeed an act of faith. But waiting calls for our participation in daily life, our being a part of it coming, our expecting it, and our presence in it. One of my favorite cartoons in the Argus Leader is a cartoon called Zitz. Zitz. It's a teenage boy, the only child. His parents, in his words, are really old and fuddy-duddy and way off base. They are just simply not up to date at all. And by their standards, they don't know what to do with Jeremy. So there's this tension between the parents and Jeremy. He's always surprising and shocking them, and every once in a while they will say or do something and he walks away saying, that's too much information. There's always this tension. On March 6th, there was the cartoon in which Jeremy and his dad are feeling the same way. Here's the cartoon. The first scene, for those who may be listening to this rather than hearing it, the mom is saying to Jeremy and the dad, pizza's here, and they're both saying, yes, finally, all excited. The second, but then she drops the bomb and says, with salad in hand, but first, let's all enjoy a nice, healthy salad. And then Jeremy and his dad, dejectedly looking at the salad, the dad says, it's like standing at the gates of heaven and finding out that you're in boarding group 6. Boarding group 6. If you've ever flown, you know that that's going to be putting you in the back of the plane. You're the last ones to get on. I've never heard of a boarding group 7. I hope I don't. I hope I don't. But yet think about it. Even in boarding group 6, you're in the boarding group. You will get on the plane. You just don't know when. You are in the boarding group. We are called to live in this present and be ready for what is to come. Jesus' instructions at the end of this text is to keep awake. It's not a matter of, come on, folks, fight off the sleep, prop open your eyes, use toothpicks if you need to. It's not a matter of him telling them to not fall asleep. He's telling them, be alert. Keep your eyes wide open for the way the kingdom comes to you. It's the sense of being ready with your A game, living on your tiptoes, ready to see God acting in your life. It's a matter of being prepared and being expectant. Somehow or another, be ready for when he comes, and don't let down your guard. Expect him to arrive. And there's nothing magic about being prepared, and there's nothing magic about expecting something to happen. But being prepared and living in expectation both bring out in us an openness to the coming of God's kingdom in our midst. I'm praying that in all my preparations, I am also expectant. I pray that we are all in our preparations ready for God to just come barging into our lives and bring his kingdom. That's faith. That's faith. A deep, deep well from which we can draw, and a well that has no bottom. The Old Testament text for today has some rather strange images to it. A stump, seemingly dead stump, sending up shoots. And it has images of animals being together that normally go after each other as one another's meal. Well, thanks to an Android commercial, we have some images of animals playing and romping together that we normally think are only at each other's throat. It picks up that theme from Isaiah that's come to be known as the peaceful kingdom, the kingdom of heaven. The wolf shall live with the lamb, the leopard shall lie down with the kid, the calf and the lion and the fatling together. All of those things happening. All of those things happening because we live in faith, living in the present, planning for the future. And so we wait until the kingdom comes.